Hi, welcome to your next Python TA training lesson. In this lesson, we will be covering advancing with data structures and some methods within lists. Remember that in last videos, we covered dictionaries and lists, which are the two most fundamental data structures that we have in Python. Let's take a look at how we would add two elements in a list. Let's say that I have a list called names, which has Daniel and Nicole, and I have another list called more names, which is June and Sharon. But what if I want to combine these two lists so that a new list would contain Daniel, Nicole, June, and Sharon? All we can simply do is we can use the plus sign operator in order to add the two lists. This is what we call addition of two lists. Let's try testing this code out. If I put this into my code compiler, and when I run this code, I will get Daniel, Nicole, June, and Sharon, which is the 4 total name. But what if we want to take a certain part of a list? We can use something called list slicing in Python. This is basically the same thing as slicing. Think about what the following code will do. If we run this code, what we're going to get is 1 and 0. Do you see any pattern? Pause the video here to find out. What we did here was we thought of 1 as the starting point, or the starting index. Which element is in the first index? It's 1. And then from 1, we went all the way up to the end point, but the end point is 3. However, we don't include 3, so we only go up till 2. That's why when we print my list of 1 to 3, we get 1 and 0. We can also slice to the end, or the beginning. Let's try running this code. Notice here we don't have a second number, but rather just a colon. If we run this, we get 1, 0, negative 1, 3, and then 3, 1, 0. Let's take a look at what the first print statement did. We started at the first index, and we went all the way up till the last element. That's where we got 1, 0, negative 1, 3 from. However, on the second line, we have colon 3. That means that we ended at the third index. But remember, it doesn't end at, but we ended at the third index. But remember, we only went up to the second index. Therefore, we get 3, 1, 0, and not 3, 1, 0, and negative 1. We can also duplicate a list as well. If we run this code and print new list, we'll just get the same list. Remember, you cannot just do this in order to duplicate a list. In order to officially duplicate a list in Python, we would actually have to use the square brackets and then colon in the middle to get a duplicate of the list. We can also use negative indexes in Python as well, which might be a bit surprising to you. Let's try running this code. If we run this code, we get 3 and negative 1. When we print my list of negative 1, what we're doing is we're basically going to the last element, and the last element is 3 in here. Negative 2 will represent the second to last element, which is negative 1. What will happen if I have print my list of negative 3? Think about this question. We can actually make a negative index chart as well. So here, the negative first element, or the index, would be the last number, 3. And then we have negative 1, 0, 1, and then 3. Remember, this is exactly the same thing as the index element chart that we've seen a couple videos before, except that the order is completely flipped. We can also delete elements from the list rather than remove and pop. Remember the two methods that we had: remove, which removed a certain element, and pop, which removed an element based off the index. And this will remove based off of the actual element. Here, we can use something called del, short for delete. Let's see what this code does. Running this code, we deleted the first element, or the first index, so we deleted 1 to get 3, 0, negative 1, and 3. Most of the time, we are going to be using remove and pop. Let's take a look at the next slide, the range function. Remember, in a for loop, we actually used for I in range. That's where the range comes from. If I had for I in range of 3, print hello, it'll print hello 3 times. But the formal definition of range is actually something different. Let's try copy pasting this code into our compiler. New list is a list of range 1 to 5, and then we're printing new list. Let's take a look line by line at what this code does. If I run this, we get 1, 2, 3, 4. Notice we started at 1, and then we're incrementing or increasing by 1. So you get 1, 2, 3, and then 4. We don't go all the way up till 5 though. Let's say that I change these two numbers so that we have 3 and then 5. Think about what this code will do. We get 3 and then 4. Notice we don't go up to all the way up to a 5. The list here will basically just change our range into a list data structure. As you can see this example, try running this code and see what you get. We can also use negative counting with ranges as well and have lists of range, but then we count backwards. So this time we start at 7 and then we decrease by 1. So we get 7, 6, 5, and then 4 like that because we have the negative 1 here. If we have negative 2 like that, we will get 7 and then 5 because we don't stop at 3. We can also increment the range function by more than 1. So if we have something like this, it's going to count up by 2 because of the last 2 at the end. So we start at 3, so we get 3, 5, 7, and 9. Notice here we're going up by 2 rather than 1. Let's try using this to a for loop. So new list is going to be list range of 3 to 10 and then comma 2. So we're incrementing by 2. So this will give us the list of 3, 5, 7, and 9. And then for each element in new list, all we're going to be doing is printing the element. So by running this code, we just get 3, 5, 7, and 9. But we can directly insert this into the for loop rather than having to type out this line. So all we can do is we can do this, and we are going to be getting the same answer of 3, 5, 7, and 9. Notice here we don't have the list rather, but we just directly use the range function. The formal definition of the range function is the start number, the stop number, and each step, or how much we increment or decrement by each time we run the code. That's it for today's lesson. See you in the next one.